Take a look at how each of the Rockets' key rotation players rank this season in terms of fewest points per possession allowed when guarding ISOs. And guess who topped them all? The newly acquired Rocket, Kevin Durant. He led the group, allowing the fewest points per possession in ISOs. And no, this isn't some fluky, small sample stat. In fact, Durant defended more isolation possessions this season than Derrick White, Dort, OG Anunoby, and even his new teammate, Ahmen Thompson, despite all four of those players suiting up for more games than him. To put this in perspective, the Suns finished the season as the 10th best ISO defense in the league, while the Rockets ranked just 23rd. And a big reason Phoenix was so much more effective in those one-on-one situations was Kevin Durant. He allowed the second fewest points per possession on ISOs among all Suns players. That's how good and criminally underrated Durant was this season as a one-on-one defender. At 36 years old, he's still elite defensively, moving his feet, sliding with wings, and disrupting matchups like what he was doing during his prime years. That's exactly the type of two-way presence that fits perfectly with what the Rockets are building. Just watch some of these clips. Here's Durant guarding Anthony Edwards. Edwards shot just 4 for 11 from the field when guarded by Durant this season. That's roughly 36%. And if the Rockets needed any more convincing, they saw it firsthand when Durant clamped down against them earlier this year. His defensive versatility is one of the most underrated aspects of his game, especially for a 7-footer. Unlike many players his height who struggle to contain smaller guards in isolation, Durant moves his feet with the agility of a wing. That's what makes him such a nightmare matchup, even on the perimeter. Take a look at this possession against Desmond Bane. Bane tries to shake Durant with a series of dribble moves, but Durant doesn't bite. He stays locked in, slides with him step for step, and forces Bane into a tough, contested shot which he ends up missing. Now on this possession, Durant ends up getting switched onto Harden off a pick and roll. He raises his arm, trying to sway Harden away from attempting a three-point shot. And although that gives Harden a sliver of space to drive, Durant stays right with him, never losing balance, never falling behind, and ultimately blocks Harden's shot clean at the rim. And it's not just perimeter players Durant can handle. When matched up with bigger wings or frontcourt scorers, Durant turns to another underrated part of his defensive toolkit, his strength. While his slender frame might fool some, Durant has surprising core strength that lets him absorb contact without giving up position. Watch Jaren Jackson Jr. try to bully his way past Durant. On Jaren's first attempt, Durant holds his ground, absorbs the bump, and stays glued to him. Jaren then tries again, realizes there's no room to create separation, and is forced into a tough shot that Durant rejects with his absurd 7'5" wingspan. Once more, another clip. This time, it's Durant matched up against Toumani Camara, a 6'7", 230-pound wing who tries to take Durant off the dribble and back him down in the post. But instead of simply holding his ground with strength, Durant taps into his insane wingspan, uses those go-go gadget arms to rise up and erase Kamara's shot at the rim. And since we're on the topic of rim protection, let's take a look at just how impressive Durant was as a rim deterrent this season, especially when compared to some of the elite wing defenders across the league. But there are two more names I want to add to this list. Names Rockets fans know very well: Ahmen Thompson and Jabari Smith Jr. Ahmen held opponents to just 56.8% at the rim. On the other hand, Jabari was even better, holding his opponents to just 55.7%. Those are elite numbers, especially for perimeter defenders. And while some might argue that Jabari doesn't quite fit the wing category, the point remains. This trio, Durant, Ahmen, and Jabari, have been absolute nightmares for anyone trying to finish at the rim. In fact, both Ahmen and Jabari posted better rim defensive field goal percentages than some of the top shot-blocking bigs in the league. Guys like Anthony Davis, Evan Mobley, Nick Claxton, Jalen Duren, and Bam Adebayo. Now, just imagine what this trio can do next season on the same team. Opponents are going to think twice, maybe even 3 times before daring to attack the paint against this group, with any one of them rotating over as a help defender, let alone trying to go at them in ISO. The Rockets already ranked 7th in the league this season in opponent field goal percentage at the rim. Now picture replacing Dillon Brooks, who allowed opponents to shoot an incredible 72.7% at the rim with Kevin Durant, who held opponents to just 61.3%. That's a massive upgrade on the defensive end, and it doesn't even begin to tell the full story. Because here's the craziest part, we haven't even mentioned Şengün yet, who in my opinion, might just be the most underrated rim deterrent in the entire NBA. Don't let the height comparisons fool you. Şengün stacks up incredibly well next to the league's best. Just look at these numbers. This season, he was nearly identical as a rim protector to Evan Mobley, the Defensive Player of the Year, Anthony Davis, a multiple-time All-Defensive First-Team selection, and Ivica Zubac, who was firmly in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation this season. And yet, because many fans don't actually watch Şengün play, the perception is that he's an easy target at the rim. That couldn't be further from the truth. Now, add Şengün to a defensive core that includes Jabari, Ahmen, and Durant. The Rockets might just have the most formidable rim-protecting starting lineup in the entire NBA. And that's without even factoring in Steven Adams, who will be coming off the bench as one of the most physically dominant interior defenders in the game. With how connected and disciplined the Rockets are on defense, constantly rotating and covering for one another, teams are going to find out fast that attacking the rim against Houston next season is just going to be a losing proposition. And we can't leave VanVleet out of that equation. Not only was he the Rockets' most effective ISO defender this season, but he also led the team in post defense, allowing the fewest points per possession in both categories. That's remarkable for a 6-footer who, alongside Aaron Holiday, is the shortest player on the roster. For someone of VanVleet's stature to anchor post defense the way he does, it speaks volumes about the toughness and versatility the Rockets' starting five brings on that end of the floor. And sure, he's not bodying up centers, but when it comes to guarding guards and wings in the post, VanVleet is doing a better job than most players at his position across the league. Now think again about what Houston have just pulled off here with this Durant trade. Essentially, they are swapping Dillon Brooks for Kevin Durant, a player who not only brings elite shot creation and offensive firepower, but is also a massive upgrade defensively. In fact, this season, Durant was a far better one-on-one defender than Brooks, and a significantly more impactful rim protector. So even before you factor in the generational scoring talent the Rockets added, the move already made them a much better defensive team. Just take a moment to imagine the kind of defensive havoc an 8-man rotation of VanVleet, Ahmen, Durant, Jabari, Şengün, Adams, Eason, and Holiday could wreak. And that's without even factoring in the leaps Shepherd and Whitmore are bound to take this offseason. The Rockets wrapped up the year with the 5th best defensive rating in the entire league, trailing only the Celtics, Clippers, Magic, and Thunder. And if you look closely at the numbers, the gap between Houston and second-place Orlando isn't all that big. So if this team lives up to what they project to be defensively, on paper and on the court, it wouldn't be shocking to see the Rockets finish next season with the 2nd best, or maybe even the top defensive rating in the NBA. Now, I've spent this whole video spotlighting how Durant's presence could reshape Houston's defense. But in my next video breakdown, I'll dive deep into how Durant can elevate this Rockets offense to a whole new level. I'll break down how he, Ahmen, and Şengün can feed off each other's strengths, how Durant and Şengün could develop into one of the league's most lethal pick-and-roll combinations, and why Amen's elite off-ball cutting is the perfect complement to 2 of the best short-roll playmakers in the game. Let's also not forget about the kind of wide-open looks VanVleet and Jabari will be getting out of all that movement and gravity. We'll get into all of that in the next video. Until then, as always, thank you for watching. I appreciate all your support, and I can't wait to dive into more film with you next time.
This one's got to go up. Stop. And that's the result you'd expect. Stop. 32 for number 35.